Shalom. So, what we're going to look at today is what is the difference between darkness and night? What would you say? Have you ever thought about it? Is there a difference? Alright, let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 1, and verse 2. It says, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." So, this is what we're going to deal with darkness, right? And the Hebrew word, as you can see, is chashak, right? No, as we know with the Mosai and with the Hebrew language, everything comes with function, and that's how you discern. You don't discern by the terminology, especially how it is perceived in the English culture, because we know with the English there's a dissonance, right? There's a difference with what we say and what we do. So we can be saying one thing and we're doing the total opposite, and that's fine because that's how the English culture is designed, right? The very thing you say you want is the very thing you move away from. You do the opposite of it. And the very thing you say you don't want, that's what you do. And that's fine. That's the English culture. It's designed that way. All right? No. Dealing with darkness and night, let's look at different aspects or attributes. So, the darkness here in Genesis 1, verse 2, this is beyond time. This is beyond day and night, right? So, it is independent of the moon and the constellations. This darkness is independent of the moon and the constellations. Give me an example of this darkness. Where do you see this? In a cave, right? So the darkness that you see in a cave, it has nothing to do with the moon and the stars because it's not dealing with night. It's not dealing with time. It's just literal darkness, right? On the other hand, with night, it is represented by the moon and the constellations, right? So the day has to come, then the day comes to an end, then the night begins, right? The night is not independent of the day. It is represented by the moon and the constellation. So even if you don't physically see the moon with your naked eye, guess what? It is there. And what you will see also is the constellations, right? So 14 days after the full moon, you can go outside. Even if you don't see the moon, trust that it is there and you will see constellations. So that's one difference between night and literal darkness, right? Another one is that darkness is not affected by time or sun, whereas the night is affected by the time or the sun, because this is why when you get to Genesis 1 verse 3, it says, "Let there be light," and there was light. So now what? Day comes into existence, right? So this is dealing with time. So time started here, so the day comes. Once the day comes to an end, by default, night is going to come, right? That's the nature of wisdom. You cannot separate night from day. But with this darkness, it has nothing to do with night or day, so it's not affected by the sun. For example, again, if you're in a cave or in a club, right? Now it's what time is it? Say it's 10:30 a.m. Guess what? It is day, right? So if the sun gets to peep in a cave, no, 10:30 a.m., it does not change anything, right? We're in as the night. If there is night where the moon and the star, once the sun comes, then you don't see the moon and the stars anymore like that. You'll see the moon sometimes, but with the stars you don't see them like that. right? The night comes to an end, right? Darkness, doesn't matter whether the sun peeps in or not. It's just literal darkness, right? And a lot of us, we used to go to clubs where we've been there in the night and then party right through and daylight, and we don't even know we're still partying because what? That darkness, the only thing we're seeing are the club lights, right? Inside is still dark, right? So yes, that's not affected by time. No. Another one is this darkness is independent of day, whereas the night is dependent on day. Again, we saw that let there be light and there was light, right? So the day first has to come, then the night follows by default, because the night puts an end to the day and the day puts an end to the night, whereas the darkness, it does not regard the day or the night. It does not regard the moon or the stars. Again, in a cave, it doesn't matter if the moon is shining, the stars shining, or the sun is shining. It doesn't matter, right? So we see this darkness again, and this is going to show exactly the difference with this darkness. When you go to Exodus chapter 10 and verse 22, right, it says, and Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days, right? 3 days. Because this darkness is not, as the previous one says, it's not affected by the sun, right? Otherwise the sun would put an end to that darkness. This is why also it uses but the same word chashak. Why it did not use night? Because they're two different things. So it's very important when you're trying to understand time, it's important to understand the difference between darkness and night. So no, the night was not before the day. There was darkness before the day. Has nothing to do with day or night. Darkness. When time started, it started with the movement of lights. So once the day come, when the day comes to an end, then the moon and the star would represent what? The night that follows. So after the first day is the first night. Before the first day was what? Darkness. I hope you get an understanding of the difference, and hope it clears up some things that you have, some questions that you have that you did not get any answers to. Right? Shalom.